And it's just strange. Annie Guthrie, we don't think is staying there anymore, or her husband. We don't know where they are.
Annie Guthrie and her husband were the last known people to see her mother, Nancy, before she disappeared. After investigators searched Annie's home twice and seized her vehicle, disturbing new details have come to light. And now she's been arrested for allegedly kidnapping her own mother. So what really happened? Let's break it down. The searches at Annie Guthrie's home. On the night of January 31st, 2026, Annie Guthrie and her husband Tommaso Cioni had Nancy Guthrie over for dinner. They dropped her off at home. Hours later, Nancy was gone, and within a week, investigators were inside Annie's house collecting evidence. The first search happened on February 7th, 2026, approximately 1 week after Nancy's abduction. Annie's property sits about 4 miles from Nancy's house in the Catalina foothills area of Tucson. Officers from the Pima County Sheriff's Department spent several hours on site. They left carrying gloves and brown evidence bag. A vehicle belonging to Annie was seized and impounded during this visit. Authorities said these steps were routine in missing persons cases, particularly when family members were among the last to interact with the victim. Then came the second search. On the evening of February 10th, 2026, investigators arrived at Annie's home again. They stayed until around 10:30 p.m. This time, they were primarily taking photographs. Bright flashes from cameras were visible through the windows. The shades were drawn. Interior lights were dimmed. Media outlets stationed outside captured the scene. A journalist who was there described it in real time.
Hey guys, all right, so I'm leaving Annie Guthrie's house now. If you look at my previous videos, there were 3 sheriff's deputies there. They showed up.
The deputies had shown up with camera equipment and evidence bags and spent about 3 hours inside.
They went in with like evidence equipment and they were taking photos inside the house, and we know for sure that they were taking photos because we could see flashes through the windows.
The flashes moved from room to room, including the garage and other parts of the house. When the deputies came out, one of them was wearing blue gloves. They said nothing.
And it's just strange. Annie Guthrie, we don't think is staying there anymore, or her husband.
Reporter Brian Enton provided more detail on the second search during a separate broadcast. He described how the operation appeared coordinated with NBC-hired private security already on site.
And when I got here, there were 3 deputies that had just arrived. They have private security here. NBC hired private security, I'm told.
The security guard moved out of the way and let the deputies in. They had blue gloves and camera equipment in cases.
They closed all the blinds. I could see them taking pictures. Yeah, there you go, right? That's some of the stuff they brought out. I could see them taking pictures in the garage.
Enton noted that the whole thing seemed planned in advance. The security guard knew they were coming. The deputies knew how to get into the house. Nobody was home at the time.
And NBC is reporting today that it was consensual, that I guess it was worked out with the family, that they were going to show up.
So the family had agreed to the search. But the question remained, why, on night 7, would investigators suddenly need photographs from multiple rooms of Annie's house? Around that same time, FBI agents were spotted combing low-lying desert brush areas near Annie's home, using tools to search for clues in the surrounding terrain. On February 10th and 11th, deputies went door-to-door in Annie's neighborhood, distributing flyers and questioning residents about unusual activity around the time Nancy disappeared. The second search coincided with the FBI's release of surveillance photos showing a masked individual tampering with Nancy's front door camera. The timing suggests investigators may have been cross-referencing that new evidence against details inside Annie's home. Former FBI agents said this kind of revisiting is standard. In abduction cases involving potential ransom demands, family properties are often searched multiple times to ensure no connections are overlooked. The goal is to build a complete evidentiary picture. That includes finances, interpersonal dynamics, and digital footprints like phone records or home security footage. But none of that stopped the speculation. Online, people pointed to the family's prominence. They pointed to Tommaso Cioni's background. They pointed to the seized vehicle. The Guthrie family responded by staying united in their public appeals and reportedly considering legal action against outlets spreading unsubstantiated claims about Annie's involvement. Sheriff Chris Nanos of Pima County maintained that no suspects or persons of interest had been named. The searches, he said, were about covering all bases and eliminating possibilities. But for a case now entering its second week, the bases kept expanding and the possibilities kept multiplying. The last sighting and the timeline. The reason investigators kept returning to Annie's house comes down to one fact. Annie Guthrie and Tommaso Cioni were the last known people to see Nancy. Guthrie alive, and the timeline between their last interaction and the moment Nancy vanished is where the entire investigation pivots. On the evening of January 31st, 2026, Nancy took an Uber from her home in the Catalina foothills to Annie's house. She arrived at approximately 5:32 p.m. The Uber driver provided video footage from inside the vehicle showing Nancy in good spirits, under no duress. The driver cooperated fully and was not considered a suspect. Nancy spent about 4 hours at Annie's home. They ate dinner and played games. Family members later described the evening as normal and uneventful. Around 9:48 p.m., Tommaso drove Nancy home. The drive was about 4 miles. Digital records from Nancy's home systems show the garage door opened at exactly 9:48 p.m. It closed 2 minutes later at 9:50 p.m. Tommaso reportedly waited to confirm she was safely inside before driving away. One of the commentators who covered the timeline laid it out in precise detail.
This is the timeline that they gave us yesterday. 9:48 p.m., Nancy's garage door opened. We believe that's the family. We believe it was Tomas dropping her off.
Sheriff had initially attributed the drop-off to Tommaso specifically, then shifted to saying family. The inconsistency was noted.
Though we could be wrong because the sheriff keeps changing his story on that. He told the New York Times it was Tomas. Then he changed it at the presser to, we're going to go with family.
From 9:50 p.m., when the garage door closed, everything appeared normal. Nancy was presumably inside, presumably going to bed. Then at 1:47 a.m. on February 1st, the doorbell cameras were disconnected. At 2:12 a.m., motion sensors detected activity near the front entrance. At 2:28 a.m., the pacemaker monitoring app on Nancy's phone showed a disconnection, meaning Nancy had moved at least 30 feet away from her phone.
So in that 2-minute time frame, it opened, it closed, and we believe she went inside. Then at 1:47 a.m.,
the gap between the camera disconnection at 1:47 a.m. and the pacemaker disconnection at 2:28 a.m. created a 41-minute window. That window became the most scrutinized detail of the entire case.
So if you go from 1:47 a.m., which is when the doorbell cam got disconnected, to 2:28 a.m., which is when her pacemaker...
41 minutes inside an 84-year-old woman's home. Analysts on multiple outlets struggled to explain what could have taken that long.
That is 41 minutes. 41 minutes.
Former FBI agents weighed in on what those 41 minutes could mean. One possibility raised was that the intruder was searching for something specific inside the house, not just taking Nancy.
First of all, we're putting so much attention, everybody is looking at ransom, that it's easy to overlook the other possibilities.
The 41 minutes, one analyst argued, pointed away from a straightforward kidnapping.
That could be the time period when somebody was looking for something. So they go into the house, there was no robbery.
There may have been paperwork or some other item the intruder wanted. A quick abduction would have been in and out. This was neither.
It's not like they're going to interrogate her before they kidnap her. So it would be a quick in and a quick out, typically. So
another analyst framed it differently. A successful abduction, but a poorly run kidnapping.
This was a clearly successful abduction. It was if it is a kidnapping, it's poorly undertaken.
You don't spend 41 minutes in a victim's home during a standard kidnapping. You get in and you get out, unless something went wrong, unless the plan changed, unless the person inside the house already knew the layout. The family's account of the evening has not been publicly contradicted by authorities. Investigators conducted multiple interviews with Annie and Tommaso and searched their home twice, their garage specifically, and their vehicle. All of it, authorities said, was to verify the timeline and rule out anomalies. As of February 11th, 2026, no suspects or persons of interest have been identified. The masked figure and the Rio Rico detention. While investigators combed through Annie's property, a separate thread of the investigation led them 60 miles south to Rio Rico, Arizona, just 12 miles from the Mexican border. On February 10, 2026, the FBI released surveillance images recovered from Nancy's Google Nest doorbell camera. The footage had been retrieved from residual data in back-end systems, even though the physical camera had been tampered with and disconnected at 1:47 a.m. on February 1st. The black and white images showed a masked individual covered head to toe in dark clothing, wearing gloves, carrying a backpack stuffed to capacity, holding a flashlight in their mouth, and appearing to have a pistol holstered at the waist. The footage was a revelation. Analysts on air broke it down frame by frame.
When you look at this picture, tell me what, like as a law enforcement person, Jim, what are the cops looking at on him?
The backpack was one of the first things noted. It appeared packed with materials, possibly what one former agent described in blunt terms.
This guy was planned, this event was planned. He was very well set up, ready to do this. And he's carrying on his back, we call them rape kits, we call them kill kits.
The contents of the backpack, this analysts speculated could include handcuffs, zip ties, duct tape, pepper spray, everything needed to carry out and control an abduction.
This is his, I hate to say it, it could be one of those, but certainly his abduction kit he has in the back. Handcuffs, electrical ties, duct tape.
The video clips showed the individual approaching the front door, tapping the camera gently with a gloved hand, then turning around, bending down and picking up vegetation from the yard. The person then used the vegetation to obscure the camera lens. The individual appeared to be of medium build, not particularly tall, estimated at 6 feet or under.
You can see he's kind of like, I want to say he's portly.
Yeah,
he's
got a
definitely
pooch.
not.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's not slim.
The holstered weapon was identified as likely a semi-automatic, possibly a Glock with an extended magazine. Its position on the right side of the body suggested the individual was right-handed. FBI Director Kash Patel posted the images on X, describing the person as armed and urging the public to provide tips. That same day, a man was detained during a traffic stop in Rio Rico. The Pima County Sheriff's Department confirmed the stop led to a detention for questioning related to Nancy's abduction. The individual, informally identified in media reports as Carlos, was transported to a facility for interrogation. He was cooperative throughout. Hours later, he was released without charges. The initial questioning had not produced sufficient evidence for an arrest. Carlos spoke briefly to reporters outside his home early on February 11th, expressing surprise at the detention and denying involvement. His mother-in-law, Josefina Maddox, who owned the property, also addressed the guy media. She said authorities had entered the home and executed a search warrant. She defended her son-in-law, claiming he bore no resemblance to the masked figure in the surveillance photos. The search of the Rio Rico property began around 8:30 p.m. on February 10th. The intersection of West Frontage Road and Camino Agosto was blocked off by Santa Cruz County Sheriff's vehicles. The FBI's evidence response team was on site. The operation lasted several hours, wrapping up in the early hours of February 11th. No arrests were made. No public disclosures of findings followed. The proximity of Rio Rico to the border prompted theories about cross-border involvement, but Sheriff Chris Nanos downplayed those angles, stating the case appeared targeted rather than random. The detention and subsequent release left the investigation without a named suspect, but it demonstrated the scope of the search. Tips were coming in through the FBI's $50,000 reward hotline, and law enforcement was following every lead, no matter how far from Tucson it took them. The ransom notes and the absence of proof. While investigators searched properties and detained individuals, another dimension of the case was unfolding through anonymous communications sent to media outlets. Multiple purported ransom notes arrived by email, beginning just days after Nancy's disappearance, and they became one of the most debated elements of the entire investigation. The first notable ransom note was received by TMZ on February 3, 2026. It demanded millions of dollars in Bitcoin. It included a verifiable Bitcoin wallet address. It set an initial deadline of 5 p.m. local time on February 5th, and it contained details that had not been made public at the time, a reference to Nancy's Apple Watch, which she was not wearing during the abduction, and a description of a damaged floodlight at her home. TMZ founder Harvey Levin described the note on air.
So, something happened here just a few minutes ago. We received an email at TMZ from somebody purporting...
The email was a ransom demand, with a large sum requested in Bitcoin and an explicit threat attached.
They are asking for it in the form of Bitcoin, and they are putting an or else on this.
The note also referenced specific items from the scene, designed to prove legitimacy.
They say two things. They say that that there is an address, a Bitcoin address, that that they could send this money to.
And then a description of what Nancy was wearing and a damaged item in the house.
And then they give a description of something that Savannah's mother was wearing at the time of the abduction and a damaged item in the house.
TMZ confirmed the Bitcoin address was legitimate and forwarded everything to law enforcement. Levin later elaborated on the note's tone and structure, calling it deliberately crafted.
It felt like somebody means business. I mean, when you read it, it's very detailed.
The note's author had thought through how to demonstrate credibility.
This person thought through, I believe, again, if it's legit, this person thought through the markers of showing that it's real.
The FBI confirmed the smell. Apple Watch and floodlight details at a press conference, which Levin said was what first raised his antenna about the note's potential authenticity.
The FBI mentioned at the news conference today something that we had seen, where they mentioned the Apple Watch and the floodlight.
One critical element stood out. The note said there would be no way to contact the sender. No two-way communication, no negotiation.
And we immediately called the sheriff. The letter says, you will have no way of contacting me. This is the only contact.
Similar notes were sent to local Tucson outlets Cold News 13 and KGUN 9 around the same period. Cold received a second message on February 6th. KGUN 9 reported receiving a note that explicitly threatened Nancy's life if the deadline was not met. All notes were forwarded to law enforcement. FBI Phoenix Special Agent in charge, Hythe Janke, confirmed the notes appeared to come from a consistent source on secure servers, but he declined to elaborate on the specific threats. Not every note was real. On February 6th, a California man named Derek Colella was arrested for sending fake ransom ransom demands via text directly to the Guthrie family. His messages mimicked the legitimate appearing notes but lacked insider details. He was traced quickly and charged with transmitting false ransom demands and harassment, offenses carrying up to 7 years in prison. Sheriff Nanos expressed frustration at the resources wasted chasing hoaxes while real leads needed attention. But the most glaring issue with all the communications, real or fake, was the total absence of proof of life. No photographs of Nancy in captivity, no video, no audio, no personal verification that only she could provide. FBI Special Agent in Charge Jonke stated plainly during a briefing that there has been no proof of life. The family was acutely aware of this gap, and they addressed it publicly in their very first video plea.
However, we live in a world where voices and images are easily manipulated. We need to know, without a doubt, that she is alive and that you have her.
Savannah acknowledged that even if visual proof were eventually offered, advances in AI deepfake technology could render it unreliable. Former FBI agents echoed this concern, noting that publicly available photos and videos of Nancy could easily be manipulated. The ransom notes represented a blend of old methods and modern digital tools, cryptocurrency demands sent through encrypted email rather than handwritten letters dropped at physical locations. But without proof that the sender actually held Nancy, every note remained unverified, every deadline passed without consequence, and the family was left suspended between hope and devastation. The family's pleas and the investigation's challenges. Through all of it, the searches, the detention, the ransom notes, the speculation, the Guthrie family kept appearing on camera, speaking directly to whoever had their mother. The first video went up on Savannah Guthrie's Instagram on February 4th, 2026. Nearly 4 minutes long, Savannah stood with her siblings Annie and Cameron, tears visible, voice steady enough to get through the message.
Our mom is our heart and our home. She is 84 years old. Her health, her heart is fragile.
Nancy lives in constant pain. She was taken without her medications. Without them, her condition could deteriorate within days.
She lives in constant pain. She is without any medicine. She needs it to survive. She needs it not to suffer.
The family said they were ready to talk. They were ready to listen. They asked the abductors to reach out.
We want to hear from you, and we are ready to listen. Please reach out to us.
On February 5th, Cameron Guthrie posted a solo video, shorter, more direct.
This is Cameron Guthrie. I'm speaking for the Guthrie family. Whoever is out there holding our mother, we want to hear from you.
They needed direct communication. They needed verification.
We haven't heard anything directly. We need you to reach out, and we need a way to communicate with you so we can move forward.
By February 7th, Savannah posted a third video, 20 seconds. The tone had shifted from pleading to conceding.
We received your message, and we understand.
They were willing to pay.
We beg you now to return our mother to us so that we can celebrate with her. This is the only way we will have peace. This is very valuable to us, and we will pay.
That was the first explicit acknowledgement from the family that they would meet financial demands. The phrasing was parsed endlessly online, but family representatives called it straightforward desperation. Then on February 11th, Savannah posted again, longer this time, addressing the public, not just the abductors.
Hi there, everybody. I wanted to come on and just share a few thoughts as we enter into another week of this nightmare.
She thanked the public for prayers and support, then made a direct appeal for anyone, anywhere, to report anything unusual to law enforcement.
We need your help. Law enforcement is working tirelessly around the clock trying to bring her home, trying to find her.
The White House also weighed in. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt addressed the case during a briefing, noting that President Trump had personally reviewed the newly released surveillance footage.
I was once again with the president. He and I were both reviewing the newly released surveillance footage from FBI in the Savannah Guthrie case.
The president encouraged anyone with information to contact the FBI.
The president encourages any American across the country with any knowledge of the suspect to please call the FBI, who continue to assist state and local local authorities who are leading this investigation on the ground.
Behind the family's public pleas sat an investigation encountering obstacles at nearly every turn. Nancy's home security subscription had lapsed weeks before the abduction, meaning her cameras recorded no usable video footage. The doorbell camera was physically removed by the intruder. A roof-mounted camera had been angled away from the entry point. Heavy rain on the night of January 31st partially obscured tire tracks in the gravel driveway. The ransom notes originated from encrypted, anonymized servers. The one person detained for questioning in Rio Rico was released without charges. Nancy's health conditions added a ticking clock to everything. She has a pacemaker installed in 2023. She takes daily medications for high blood pressure, chronic pain, and blood thinning. All of those medications were found untouched in her bathroom cabinet. Geriatric specialists consulted in media reports warned that an elderly individual in her condition could experience rapid deterioration without treatment. Hypertension could spike within hours. Pacemaker-related complications could arise from dehydration, stress, or physical restraint. Sheriff Nanos addressed this during an early press conference.
This is a 84-year-old lady who suffers from some physical ailments, has some physical challenges, is in need of medication.
The medication situation was described in the starkest possible terms.
Medication that if she doesn't have in 24 hours, it could be fatal.
As of February 11th, 2026, the FBI maintains a 24-hour command post. Over 500 tips have been received through the dedicated hotline. Billboards with Nancy's description have gone up across multiple states. A $50,000 reward stands for information leading to her recovery. The family has raised over $150,000 through GoFundMe for search efforts. Community vigils have been held in Tucson. Churches have held prayer services. Volunteers have searched desert areas and parks. But Nancy Guthrie is still missing. No suspect has been named. No arrest has been made in connection with the abduction itself. The family has not received direct contact from whoever sent the ransom notes, and the 41 minutes that someone spent inside an 84-year-old woman's home in the middle of the night remain unexplained. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, click on one of the boxes playing on your screen to watch more similar content.